Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to another episode of the Femme Fatalities. I'm your co-host, it's Anna, and I'm here with...
Hey, Grieflings and Frightlings, it is Margaret and Anna. What movie are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about another great Jordan Peele film, and by the end of this podcast, I guarantee you're going to say yes to nope. Before
Yes.
we get into it too far, there are plenty of triggers. I actually waited a substantial period of time to watch this movie because of the chimp attack, which I will tell you, if that is a trigger for you, anyone who tells you it's super violent is full of crap. I watched it, and as demented as it sounds, I was almost kind of disappointed because I was expecting to be like crying and horrified because I've mentioned this before. I have a thing about primates, and that is nightmare fuel for me. Didn't even affect me. So just so you know, if you do have anxiety related to animal attacks or primates from someone who also shares that anxiety, to me it was not bad.
Would you say, like, as we're going into triggers, you love body horror?
I do.
You love the Terrifiers. You love gory, bloody. So I'm going to say, if you align with Anna on that part, chimp attack's not going to be bad for you.
No.
If you are more of like psychological horror or more sound sensitive, then this will be anxiety inducing because there is like, you see his like limbs moving like when he's hitting the woman, but you don't see him hitting her, but you hear her, like her sounds. And when we went to the theater, I went with my daughter, my partner, and her boyfriend. That scene was so anxiety inducing. Her and her boyfriend almost got up and left the theater. So it's different because Anna's like, it wasn't bad for her, but she also, because everybody was like, it was so bad. It's a very uncomfortable scene. It's a really hard scene to watch if you're empathetic. If, like Anna, you love primates, that scene is heartbreaking. That was like grief-stricken.
I don't like
broke my
primates at all. So any fans, please don't post pictures of primates in response to this, please. Like, I'm not joking. That is a weird thing that I have. Like chimp attacks, that kind of thing, that really is an anxiety inducer. But yeah, like for me, I expected like intestines, body parts everywhere, like blood stains all over everything. So it was none of that. And that's like the people that had told me that was the expectation. I was actually quite pissed at them because I was like, I could have seen this movie when it came out instead of hyping up, like Margaret said. And that, I think that's a phenomenon that happens to all of us. You hype yourself up so much in anticipation of thinking something's going to happen, and then it doesn't. And then you kind of just laugh because it's like, well, what was I so hyped up about in the first place? But yeah. I definitely think survivor's guilt is a big thing in this movie, and how people deal with that in such a variety of ways. Grief journeys in general. Also belonging versus not belonging, and what that looks like.
Yes. Animal attacks, horse death, human death, horse sacrifice, and childhood trauma were the trigger warnings that I wrote down. And then also Gordy, like Anna and I just touched on, broke my heart. Like, again, we're talking about Peele, who often is making statements about if we treat an animal like a human, we are going to get hurt because it is an animal. So how do we respect the animal? And I might be getting into the movie here. How do we respect the animal and have a relationship with it and still honor that it's an animal? And I feel like our protagonist does that beautifully. He respects the horses. He asks for you to respect the horses, and they are a horse. He's not gonna expect the horse to be a human.
Yeah. And I think the film itself brings that topic up in such a way by using horses. It makes it easier to understand. Like if it would have been a film and they would have been dog trainers, for instance, I think it would have been much more difficult to get that message across, because how many people have dogs, how many people have cats, and you consider them to be part of your family more so than other types of animals, even if they're domesticated. So I think he did a wonderful job in selecting the type of animal and writing a storyline and how to proceed with that. Yeah, for me, like, the Gordy thing was very sad. Even though I don't really, I'm not a primate fan, for a variety of reasons, but it's very sad, like the whole situation, because you have humans that get hurt. Obviously, he gets to bear the brunt of the results from his actions, but he's acting on his instinct. He is an animal. This is how they behave. This is what they do. And to have an expectation that he's fundamentally going to understand that violence is wrong and he needs to be punished, that's highly illogical because he is an animal.
Yes, and I love how you touch on instinct. And we see that with Gordy and then with Ghost and our survival brain. We go into fight or flight, and Gordy goes into fight. He feels he is in danger. And so our survival brain, our primitive brain, is how does the body survive with least harm done to it? And we see Gordy, he goes into fight. Ghost, I believe, is the horse at the beginning. Ghost goes into flight. Ghost runs away. Unfortunately, Jean Jacket, the predator, the apex predator, catches Ghost.
Well, and I think too with horses, not only the illustrations in the film, but anyone who has rural experience, whether it's equestrian or not, if you grew up rural or you grew up with folklore, you know that when a horse essentially gets spooked, that it is about to go down. Something is very much amiss. The situation has gone awry. High alert. Something's going to happen. So once again, that's beautiful illustration saying, okay, something's really wrong here.
Yes, and they're highly sensitive. So again, how you touched on Peele using horses, they are so sensitive. Again, like Anna was pointing out, they know things. Like they are intuitive. My dad we used to have horses, and he used to do carriage rides. I mean, big, huge draft horses. They knew when somebody was afraid of them. They would swish their tail at them. They would stomp their feet, kind of like, I know. And they were playing with them. I could tell, like, these horses enjoyed it. And people like, oh, and I'd be like, oh, knock it off. And the horse would stop it. But that's often how even a lot of our ancestors were like, okay, how's the horse responding? Because if the horse is responding, something's wrong. And we see our protagonist, he is in touch with that. Like he knows. We see him with Lucky, right? He is reading Lucky. You're getting too close to Lucky. Stop that. And how oblivious, again, Peele touching on humans, how oblivious we can be. Oh, I'm the actress. Do, do, do.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, just not paying attention to our environment, to who or what is in our environment, thinking that we know best when we don't have any experience. And you're right, it speaks very much to the human condition. I mean, this happens in all sorts of environments, personal, professional, family, friendships, environments where you don't know anyone and you go into something with not a lot of experience, but oh, well, I have an MBA, or I am an actress, or I'm the matriarch of this family, so I know how to deal with this. And it's really important to listen to those that actually do have experience in that situation or in that field or in that community, to get an idea of what you should be doing and what is helpful versus going by an inexperienced assumption.
Yes. And I feel like you also touch on how this movie, he is showing how people are clueless in their environment and then how they hyper focus on what they want to. We see that with Juniper and, oh, we've been blessed. And now people are making the sensationalism out of Jean Jacket and what Jean Jacket does, or even the sensationalism about aliens, so we want to see this, we're going to focus in on this, but we're going to ignore all this other stuff in our environment.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the whole thing, the spectacle theme of the entire movie is, if you pay so much attention to the spectacle, you're eventually going to become part of it. And that really says a lot. You know, do you want a solution? Do you want to be proactive? Do you want to be reactive? Do you want to hyper focus? You know, and how results driven are you? Because your results will derive directly from your behavior and actions related to the situation.
Yes, and like he does a beautiful job of, like you're pointing out, how he's capturing that in these people. We have the TMZ motorcycle guy. We have the, I think, world famous director, and how he wants to get that one super shot. And the TMZ guy, again, I need to get this shot. And not like, are you aware, like, you are in a life and death situation? The TMZ guy, no, the director, I feel like he was making that point of, I'm pretty sure he was dying. Like, I'm dying, so I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna focus on this because everything else doesn't matter anymore. Like, I'm dying. This is where I'm gonna focus. And the other guy was just, I have to do this, so I'm gonna get this, and not pay attention to where they're like, get out of here, you stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and something too is after the Gordy attack, we find out what happened to a few of the characters on the TV show. But what about all the staff that worked in production? What about the audience? What about all these other characters that witnessed this incident? We never know anything of what became of them. And to parallel that to grief, how often do we say, oh, how tragic, they lost a spouse, they lost a sibling, they lost a child, and we focus and fixate on that one person's loss. However, they have an entire system of family and friends, colleagues, co-students that have also been impacted by the loss of this person. And I think that a big takeaway from the movie for me, watching it in the eyes of a thanatologist, and I know we say that pretty often, but you watch a movie for entertainment, then you watch it from a different perspective. You get two different sets of information sometimes, but you know, how often do people who are grieving feel forgotten or lost? Oh, well, I don't want to say anything about how I'm feeling in relation to my grandmother's loss, because that was my mom's mom. That was my aunt's mom. That was my uncle's mom. I don't have the right to talk about how I feel. What I feel is trivial compared to what they're going through. And how often do we experience that? And, or even something that's positive. Well, oh, so-and-so just got promoted. I'm really excited for them. And, they changed a bunch of policies that I'm super excited about, but I shouldn't really talk about my excitement because they're the one that got the promotion. And it's just, how often do we focus solely on one character or a couple of characters, not allowing us to acknowledge everyone else that was impacted or involved?
Ooh, thank you. I love how you share that. And even, again, this is Peele, so the layers and how he reflects that. People focus on, I think it's Juniper, that his experience, because he was one of the kid actors on Gordy, and he's the survivor, and they don't branch out. Or then we look at our protagonist. His dad died. He witnesses his dad die. He rushes him to the hospital. And he doesn't want to be the focus. So he's trying to be like, okay, don't pay attention to me. And then here he has his sister who's like, I am the focus, to the point where it's not even going to be relevant.
Right.
And how those often collide, and then how we miss making space for. She's also grieving her dad in this way, and he's grieving in this way. And again, we go back to the sensationalism, the people that want to focus on, oh, well, you knew this you were on the Gordy show, so your grief is going to be more valid than the person that's like, I just want to like get through, like I can't talk about this. And I talk about this a lot. Then how do you hold space? Do you want to talk about it? How can I support you? Are you eating? I'm going to bring you over. I made you some chicken noodle soup. I'll bring it over. Let me clean your bathroom. We don't always have to talk to people about their grief, what they're going through. We could see with the characters, right? Kiki Palmer's character. You probably just dance with her, have a drink with her. You don't have to talk about her grief. Our protagonist, JR Jr., right? Him, like, you probably just help him, like, go clean some horses, go muck some stalls. This is how you're gonna show up for people. Now, Juniper, he wanted to talk about it, because when she asks, he's like, oh yeah, let me tell you what happened.
Well, and I feel like Juniper is more of an intuitive griever, whereas our sibling set, although they're very different people, they're both instrumental grievers. I need to get out. I need to do some sort of action or take place in an event that helps distract me or helps me process my emotions in a physical way versus talking about it. Whereas Juniper is like, I will tell you about this. I will talk about this. And it's very, very different. And I think that whether or not that was part of the purpose of the film, those three characters in particularly display different ways of grieving and kind of these different categories of how you grieve. Not that one is better than the other. If you're an instrumental or intuitive griever, you don't have to worry about getting sucked up into the spectacle. There are just different ways of doing it and working through it.
Thank you for bringing that up and helping people say, oh, this is how I grieve. I also think our protagonist shows in grief, he really doesn't have time to grieve. Dad ran a business. Now he has to run the business, and he reflects that. He's like, I don't have time. Like when his sister's like, let's just like, I don't have time. I have to take care of the horses. I have to take care of the business. I have to. And that often happens in grief too, where survivors, they don't have time to tend to their grief because they have to tend to funeral stuff. They have to tend to estate stuff. They have to tend to, if that parent owned a business, land, animals, they don't have time to grieve. They're like, I have to figure this out. I don't.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and most of us in the adult world, no matter whom we've lost, we get 3 whole days if we work for someone, and then we have to go back to the office and pretend everything's fine. You know, and that it is very difficult. And I will say, you know, we've talked about some of our substantial losses. When my grandmother died, my employer at the time was amazing. Just the support and allowing me to take the time that I needed was remarkable. And I know that not everyone is afforded that. But yeah, I mean, you're still, even if you take like a week off or whatever you need to do, when you go back, you're expected to be the normal version of you, but loss changes us, and that's it. When your loved one dies today, tomorrow, you are not going to be the same person. And that's okay. That's part of the process. You shouldn't be the same person. If you're not feeling these different things and having these different experiences, that's probably more of a time to be concerned than if you are going through your grief journey. And, you know, especially as Margaret brings up, running a business, even if you close shop for a few days, you have to get right back into it. And especially with the horses, these animals need tending every day. You can't just not go out and take care of them. They need your human assistance.
And again, I appreciate how you touch on, we live in this society that's like, okay, your bereavement leave, depending on the employer, you get a week. And even as a grief therapist, so often, and I'm guilty, when I started my grief journey, I started grief therapy, and I've shared this before. I asked the therapist, how long is this going to take? And she was like, I can't answer that. I was like, no, like, you're talking a year here. Like, I need a timeline. And she giggled. She's like, it doesn't work that way. And now I am in her seat, and I tell people, This happened 6 months ago. This happened a year ago. This happened 3 years ago. This happened 5 years ago. There's not a timeline. It ebbs and flows where the more years we get between us, it ebbs and flows differently. The first 1 to, I'm going to say usually 3 years are profound. It's right. It's the image, right? That I think Anna also saw this in our program. Like, it's a box. Grief is a box, and there's this giant button on one side and a giant ball. And the ball just keeps hitting the button, and that button is our grief. And so we just keep responding. Over time, the button gets smaller and the ball gets smaller. They're still in the box, and the ball is still going to hit the button. And we live in a society that's like, there's no box, no ball, no button. It happened. Get over it. No, no, no. And you could be 20 years into your grief journey and then have a day that it felt like the first day it started.
So, absolutely. And that's okay. And that's normal. And I think in the film, another thing is that all of these kids, right, they're impacted by the Gordy incident. And then later on, we have our siblings whose dad dies. And there's this saying, sometimes new grief brings about old grief. So it doesn't have to be the same type of grief, though. So, as a child, you witness this horrific thing, and then a family member dies many years later. That could trigger a lot of your responses from what you experienced as a child, or unearth a lot of feelings and notions that you have not dealt with that you still need to work through. And that's something that is very normal. It happens more frequently than not. And I think our society does a huge disservice in not telling people that this is something that you can expect. This is not abnormal, and it could very well happen to you.
Yes, I appreciate that you bring that up. And we see that with the siblings, too, that in Dad's death, one of the griefs that come up is for the sister. And she's gifted, Jean Jacket becomes the alien. When they're kids, Jean Jacket is a horse that is gifted to sister. And then Dad decides that brother is going to train the horse, and that she doesn't get this horse. Grief does that. We go, and I'm still angry about this, and I'm still upset about this, and I'm still processing this. That is part of grief. And I love that for her. She's like, I'm not over this. That was my birthday, and I was given something, and it was taken from me. That's how grief is. We are given something and it is taken.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, I do have to ask you, in the movie, which character do you most relate to?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I got a couple questions for you after that. I'm going to have to go with Lucky, the horse that survives. That's just like, okay, like, I'm here. I'm trying to help you. I'm also trying to work through my own horse issues, because I feel like Lucky, he's got some issues where we see that. And so I'm going to go with, and it's not JR, it's OJ. OJ is our main character. I'm sorry for botching that. How about you?
I have to say, even though we're kind of opposite, Keke Palmer's character, because she's everything I wish I could be and more. And sometimes when we watch a film, we relate to someone like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could say that. I wish I could, like, behave that way. So yeah, not because I feel like we have too much in common, but because I wish I were more vivacious like she is.
Ooh, I love that. So, since this is a film about aliens, do you believe?
Oh, yeah, I do. I mean, I'm still waiting for the reptilians to ascend from Middle Earth here. But in all seriousness, yeah, I mean, I think it's silly to think that we're the only creatures in the entire universe that exist. And what may be alien to us, I'm sure we're pretty foreign and alien to them too, if they have any awareness of planet Earth. What about you?
Oh, yes. I think it'd be foolish for us to think we are the only planet with life on it in this whole gigantic universe. Next question. Do you have a favorite alien movie? And if so, and I mean alien is in the genre of aliens, not
Not
alien
the
specific
alien
alien, even if
xenomorph.
that is your favorite movie.
Yeah. That's a really good question. I might need to think about that for a minute or two. Do you have a favorite?
I actually, yeah, because I thought of the question. I was like, I better have an answer when it comes back. So I love Get Out. So it's up
Yeah.
there. I love Signs. I mean, we've talked about M. Night and how much we both appreciate his work. So I love that one. I'm going to have to go with Host, which is a Korean movie that, oh my gosh, it made me cry. We know I don't cry a lot in movies. So I'm going to go with Host. It was just, yeah, a well done movie.
Yeah.
Did that help? Do you have one?
Okay, so for entertainment value, it would probably be Predator because it's a classic, and technically speaking, Predator is an alien.
Oh yeah, it's an alien movie.
Yeah, but in all reality, I think that I really like the movie Paul, and I know it's not a comedy, but just his misadventures on planet Earth and trying to get back, and um it just goes to show that hopefully we can make friends wherever we end up who want the best for us, but there are going to be a lot of challenges.
I love that answer. That is a great answer. Yes, and this is so I'm just checking my notes and we've touched on like being like spectators and predatory nature of animals. And it also noted in the movie that they touch on how anything with a spirit can be broken. And I thought that was really sad. And then I feel like OJ and Lucky show us, yes, and we can get that spirit back. Our spirit can be broken and we can reclaim it and regain it.
Absolutely. And I mean, hey, what a great grief thing, because I mean, when you lose someone that has a meaningful presence in your life, it is like you have lost part of your soul, part of your being, part of who you are. And I think that in the grief journey, you can feel like part of your spirit's broken. I think that that is also a very normal feeling, but honestly, I think in a lot of situations, whether it's grief, change, positive, negative, devastating, that we could be, for instance, we could be doing really, really well educationally or in our careers, but maybe it's in a path that we feel like we're selling out. So great, you've written a book, it's been published, or you just got a huge bonus, and but you've totally sold out, so you crushed your spirit. Now what? And I think that these are really normal feelings that a lot of us experience on the day-to-day basis in a variety of different ways.
Yes. Ooh, thank you for sharing and tying that into grief.
I think part of it too is at the end of the day, you're still you. And it's very easy for us to forget that. And not everything in life is going to play out how we want it to. And that is a sad but true fact of life. But how do we work with that? Okay, let's say, okay, for instance, I'm a stockbroker, which I'm not, but they're just saying hypothetically here. I'm a stockbroker. I kill myself 75 hours a week, answering phones, selling stock, praying to the almighty dollar so I can sustain a good living and support my family. I wanted to be an artist. That part of me is dead. No, it's not. It's still there. You need to figure out a way, even if it's an hour once a month, to sit down and paint or whatever it is. You still have that, and you can still enjoy that part of who you are. It may just be in a different way than you had imagined. And I feel like even the podcast, like I went into the thanatology graduate program. I was like, as soon as I graduate, I'm immediately going to find a job in hospice or, working with this specific demographic about the changes in aging and this and that. And Thanatology is still a really, really young science. It's a growing industry. It does not have exclusivity to availability or a lot of availability for full-time gainful employment sustainable positions, right? So I'm working full-time in the business world, and thank goodness Margaret and I have this podcast, and we have other things that we're doing as well. I know together we have things that we work on, and also individually we have things as well that are in this genre that we're working on. That is good. That's what it looks like for me, right? So what I had in my brain didn't completely happen yet, but there are other things that I can do too. And I think it's really important to have a way of considering situations in that way. Too often we think about, well, I wanted it to turn out this way and it didn't, so I'm done. Well, no, you're still here, right? So we've got that going for us. We're all still here. If you're on this podcast talking, which would be Margaret or myself, or you're listening to it, hey, game changer, we're still here, right? So we still have the ability to figure out what might work for us and how that looks. And that's just as important as actually doing it.
Ooh, you bring up such a valid point that we live in a society that is work-based. What do we do for our gainful employment? What is our profession? And so many of us, that is a piece of us. It's our passions, it's our hobbies, it's the things we do outside of work that make us work. And how do us as people start to be like, okay, yeah, I do this for work, and this is my passion project. This is my podcast. This is my side thing that I got going on. So yeah, this is my 9 to 5. This is who I am when I'm not in my 9 to 5. And I see, and if we tie it back to Nope, look at OJ, or look at the guy that works at the electronics store. Here are two people that their identity is wrapped up in their job, but electronic equipment guy, he really wants to know about aliens and all of this. And OJ, feels like OJ just, he wants to be him. He doesn't want to be like tied to his dad's business and his dad did this and this is what they did. OJ to me, and I don't know about you, he feels like one of those people that would be happy. He would have his ranch, he would have his horses, he would tend to them, and I'm guessing maybe he bored, and that would be the income, and just he's just living his day, because that's how it felt like he was like, just let me live my day, let me take care of the horses, let me do my thing. And
and like he really cares about the animals, but he wants to just you know, have a peaceful day. And I really, his character appealed to me because when I saw him, he was very much to me like, and I feel so bad using this, but a wounded kitten. Like, oh, he's so sincere and caring and thoughtful, but all of these things have happened and he hasn't dealt with it. And now he has all this other stress. And oh my gosh, if he were a real person and I knew him, I'd want to help him in any way that I could, because he's such a kind, thoughtful, caring, good person, and he deserves someone to step up and help him. And, you know, I'm not saying that the other characters didn't. I just think that sometimes we see things in characters in movies that either are reflections of what we see in ourselves or reflections of the people that we're usually drawn to. And yeah, he definitely seems like he just wants to coast along and have a peaceful existence. And yeah, if it were not a fictitious, yeah, absolutely. If it weren't a fictitious work, I would wish him all of that in his life, you know. But yeah, it's just yeah, and it's funny how different he is from the other characters and how different they are from him.
Yes. And I was going to say, like, as an actor, like, he's our protagonist in Get Out. He's our protagonist in Nope. And he is one of those rare people that just really have soulful eyes, that just have, like, this presence. Like, he's 1 in a million person where you are just drawn into him as a person. He embodies the characters he plays. And again, he has these eyes that not everybody has that you were
Mhm.
touching on, that you're just like I want to know you and your
Mhm.
character you're portraying. I want to help you and
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason Jordan Peele's films are so successful too, because he really takes the time to select a cast that is going to be effective in the roles that they're portraying.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Another knockout, awesome movie by Jordan Peele with layers and
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of stuff. Yeah. A
Yeah.
must see. Anything by Peele is a must see.
Yes. And I cannot wait until next year when the new one comes out. I will have to say, though, of the three, Nope was probably my least favorite. It just wasn't, the pace wasn't where I needed it to be, I think, because I feel like Get Out is so suspenseful, and then Us, there's this consistency of something always happening all the time. Whereas with Nope, to me, it kind of jumped around a little bit, and you were left to put pieces together, which I think was great. But it just, okay, part of it too was Gordy. I'm not gonna lie, but it was good, but it didn't quite hit the way the other two did for me. What about you, Margaret? What's your order of the favorite versus maybe not the most favorite in the three?
So I feel like Nope is a mood. Like you said,
Mhm.
like it's slower paced. It's so if you're in the mood for a slower paced movie, then I'd go with Nope because it does have
Mhm.
this, like it's moving. If you
Yeah.
want, like Anna was saying, something that's like there's something going on and you need to be paying attention because bad is going to happen, watch Us.
Mhm.
If you want suspense to where you're on the edge of your seat, you're like, okay, what's happening? Then Get Out. And I think that's what makes Jordan Peele so
Yeah.
brilliant is he has these three films that hit differently depending on the mood. And most people, well, there's some people, most people I know will pick the slow paced last. They want that sort of what's happening, we
Mhm.
got to go, 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 or I'm on the edge of my seat
Yeah.
waiting for it to happen. And Nope, you didn't feel like you were on the
Yeah.
edge of your seat. There was sort of that doom, but you were just kind of like, okay, like that
Mhm.
apprehensiveness, like, where's this going?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it was really good for what it was, but I was definitely comfy in my couch watching it at home, not on the edge of any seat. But yeah, it just, it was good. I'm not saying that it wasn't or not to watch it. I just think that as Margaret mentioned, I prefer kind of a faster pace with something consistently happening all the time, and that's where I got a little lost with this one.
I will say between seeing it at the theater and watching it at home hit much differently. I already
Mhm.
shared that I went to the theater and my daughter and her boyfriend were so anxious. At one point, she got out of her seat. She left because the movie was causing her so much anxiety. She's a huge horror lover, like Anna and I. And then, like, in the theater, and I'm gonna guess it's like what happens. There's a lot of hype building up to a movie. You've
Mhm.
already seen the creator's other two movies, so that's filling the anxiety. People in the theater are anxious. It's a Jordan Peele movie, so we have that level of expectation.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, a horror movie. Because then when I watched it at home, I'm like, I'm not feeling
Yeah.
the same palatable. And that we've touched on
Mhm.
that, the difference between seeing in the theater
Yeah.
versus watching at home.
Oh yeah, and just the sensory reaction. And also, I did not watch the Jordan Peele movies in order. So I saw Get Out first, but then I saw Nope, and then I watched Us. So I think having gone from the suspense of Get Out to kind of that slower, more relaxed pace of Nope, and then watching Us, where there's something consistently happening. And I think that the although Get Out has violent scenes, I think the consistent violence in Us definitely just aligns more with like me liking body horror, me liking slashers and that kind of stuff. So I think if I would have watched them in the order that they came out, I would feel differently. But yeah, but by far, I think Us is my favorite Jordan Peele movie so far. And so, yeah, once again, someone hyped it up for me in my brain, and it took me a long time to watch it. And everything they said happened in the movie, there was none of it. So, when people tell you you might or might not like a movie, take it with a grain of salt, because
Yeah.
I've learned the hard way that
yeah. Do your research. Like, if somebody tells you something, Anna and I tell you, like, oftentimes spoilers are your friends. I know Anna, before a movie comes out, she's going to be sending me something about the kill count if it's a slasher movie. Or I'm going to look, like, there's that new movie, Good Boy, we've talked about. I'm waiting for spoilers because I need to know what happens to the dog before I commit to watch it. You get to say, what is, and does the dog die? I love that website because people on there have, does the animal die? Is there trauma? Is there sexual assault? Like, whatever your trigger is, you get on that website and somebody has answered it. So then you can go in and be like, okay, I can watch this movie and be like, why did I not see this movie? Oh yeah, because somebody told me I wouldn't like it.
Yeah. And it helps too to have, you know, a genre buddy. Like Margaret and I are kind of, I would say, horror buddies, right? So we almost kind of know our language with each other. Like if one of us texts the other, have you seen this yet? ... Then we know that it's probably something that we're going to drag, because it's like, have you seen this yet? Whereas if it's like, oh my gosh, I just saw such and such, you got to see it. Or, hey, I watched this movie and this scene reminded me of a scene from that movie you don't like. You might not want to see it. You know, it's really helpful to have someone who enjoys the same genre as you and knows you well enough to kind of gauge how you might react to it.
Yes, have those buddies. We just had this with a movie that I just saw you haven't seen yet. And I was like, from a thanatologist, you're going to love this movie. From a slasher perspective, you're going to love this movie. And I know your triggers, and your triggers were not activated in it. So I think you will like this movie. Is it the best movie? No, and that's what we do. Anna will do the same for me. I just saw this, and I think that you'll like it or check it out. And then sometimes you're like, okay. I thought usually Anna, you and my partner, so aligned in movies. So half the time, like, if he likes it, I think she's gonna like it. And I think I told him that the other day. I'm like, okay, you like it, Anna will like it. Oh, if you didn't like it, so she might not. Like, I love the long legs. Anna was like, meh. He was like, meh.
Yeah.
Terrifier, the last one. You're like, yes. He's like, yes. And I'm like, meh.
Right. Well, and it's funny because I have this friend that I've been friends with them since we were probably like preteens. And anytime they message me, they're like, I just saw such and such and I hated it. It was awful. I was like, Margaret, we got to see this movie because I think we'll both like it. Just because their preferences are so aligned with other horror aspects. So it's good to have that.
And I think it's like all horror films. It's just, is it a favorite or is it not? And Peele, I think listeners you've gained that I'm a huge fan. So
definitely, and I would definitely suggest seeing Nope if you haven't already, especially if you're interested in something that is a little bit more of a slower, steady pace. I wouldn't even really describe it as a slow burn. It's just definitely a slow, steady pace. It's like a horse ride, slow and steady pace. And, you know, that's probably part of it too. And any of the other Peele movies that you have not seen, go see them like now because they're amazing. And please check out our other episodes that are about Get Out and Us. And until next time, drink your Bruja Brew, eat your coffin cookies, and howl at that moon. And don't forget,
like, subscribe, follow, comment. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.